now I'm going to show you my number one.
Please.
It's going to come as a surprise to you. It's a small company out of Germany.
Yeah.
Called FFX pedals. I know you haven't heard of them. I'll send you the pedal so you can try it out.
Yeah, you're too kind.
That's my number one. Yeah, it's my number one for this year. I would have been remiss not to put it in the list. And it would have been very hypocritical of me to just like pretend that I didn't have that pedal. Because yeah, it's killer. Dude, you knocked it out of the park. And the thing is, like, I've watched interviews of people that say, like, okay, so just before I get there, I just want to put the premise that this is a signature, not signature pedal. It's more like a collaboration. The Ark of Tone is basically two Red Llamas in an enclosure, but with some very interesting modifications. So for those who don't know, there's a voltage control for each of the two sides, and we have low pass filter because the original circuit gets really brittle as you start to crank it up. And we put that in there, and those two features and stacking the pedals together gives you so many tones. It's actually crazy. You can get like fuzz territory, high gain territory, or it can be bluesy. You even get in the vicinity of something more like a blues breaker if you want to, more like a light breakup without coloring the tone too much. And I wanted to actually buy a second Red Llama because my Red Llama is like one of my favorite pedals of all time. And I had the one, which is a Mark II, and I was looking at the prices to get another Mark II or maybe a Mark I, and they're expensive, and I didn't feel like ponying it up. And on top of that, I was like, I want to stack them together, but the problem is they're going to get like super bright, and I don't want that. So I remember putting a Facebook post saying, no, one of my life's ambition at some point would be to have a signature pedal or something like that. I was just like goofing off on that morning, and you're like, what would that look like? And I'm like, well, that would be two Red Llamas in one box. You're like, let's do it. I'm like, seriously? You're like, yeah, let's do it. So I was like, damn it, that is cool. But I expected, coming back to the point I was going to make, I thought we were going to have to like send it back and forth, and I was going to give you notes on like what I liked, what I don't like, and all this stuff. And I was like, it's going to take forever to get this put. No, first revision, you send it to me. And while it was first revision for me, I don't know if you had like a couple like mishaps with it, like in the design, but the first one you sent to me, I was like, it's fucking perfect. Like, you nailed it. I don't want any other changes. Like, this is awesome. And it happened in like really short window. Like, it took barely any time to get this thing up and running.
Must have happened between July and September this year, simply because I remember we talked on the phone while I was in Spain on vacation, and that was in August, and we started this whole thing beforehand. And then we said we are going to launch it at Guitar Summit, which was the end of September. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And
so and go ahead.
For me, it was like, I saw you posting this, and I already knew that, first of all, I mean, we've been collaborating on the whole content thing, that I've been sending stuff out to you, and I always, loved what you did with the other pedals. I always liked the content very much. It's high quality content. It sounds good. You were always presenting it well. And even if it was a, excuse me, like in the case of the Doble Cabron, where you essentially made like a no talking video and just like playing, it sounded killer. It looked killer. So I was like, if this guy has an idea of what his, like how his ideal pedal would look like, then I think it's going to turn out great. So that's why I said, okay, tell me what you're looking for. And when you said two Red Llamas in one enclosure, I was searching for the schematic, and I was like, that's actually a pretty easy schematic. So it's nothing too it's nothing too complicated, and it's a schematic that goes back to the 70s, where we had Anderson. It was Anderson who.
Craig Anderton.
Craig Anderton. I'm sorry, Anderton. Craig Anderton, who first came up with the unit, but obviously since fuzz pedals and creating distortion in a box was very, very wanted back then, he kind of multiplied the gain by 10 times the amount and pretty much made it a fuzz unit. So the original has like a shit ton of gain. Unbelievable. It's to me, it's still impressive that this thing didn't end up being microphonic all the time. So, but yeah, and I thought, well, if he has an idea of what he wants his pedal to sound like, then it has to be good. So that's why I asked. And when you said the Red Llama, I was like, okay, it's not going to be too difficult of a task. And also, I wanted to explore a couple of things. I wanted to be a little bit more clever when it comes to switching. So it's the first pedal. Not only was it my first collaboration with someone external, but also is the first time that I used soft switching and sort of intelligent switching in a pedal, where as we have the, you can use the middle foot switch to change between A and B, or like switch on both at the same time. So definitely a very fun collaboration. And just one last thing, when I tried it, because I regularly go to a session, like a jam session in town. It's a very blues based session, and I have a mini pedal board with me that is battery powered. So because you don't have, for the changeover, you have essentially a minute. You take your guitar, you go there, you plug in, and you're good to go. And I have like 2 pedals on there, which is the Ark of Tone and an all-you-can boost. That's all I need. It's everything you need.
Christ, that's crazy. And one thing also worth mentioning is, I'm going to get it right. So this design here was done by my friend Pascal, which goes by the name Hernox. And he's a great artist. He's a singer and musician. He writes his own music. And this is his day job. Like, he does graphic design, but he does it for the government. So it's very like restricting and all this stuff. But when he's at home, he's doing all like this creative stuff. Like, he's a brilliant guy and very, very talented. So when I approached him, I said, look, I would like some kind of design that kind of harkens back to like the 1970s, like MXR and EHX, kind of stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, I like EHX. Let's go with that theme. So that's where he came up with this design. And but when I got the pedal and I plugged it in, I was floored. I was like, holy shit, dude.
Wow.
This is even better than what I had anticipated, because all I thought was just stacking both sides. And that was it, right? But everything else that's in here makes this pedal so much better. And yeah, of course, it's my pedal and all this stuff. But even if it wouldn't have been my pedal and you had come out with this and you had to send it my way, it would still be #1 on my list. That's how I feel about it.
Nice. Yeah, it's it might be interesting to mention that. So you said like the used prices on like some of the original Red Llamas is like insane. So what I find on a quick search, let me just remove this filter. Everywhere. Okay, so this is wow. Okay, so this is a way huge electronics Red Llama that looks almost like orange. Seems to be very, very old.
Okay.
And this
probably a Mark 1.
$2,600. Are you kidding me? That's like sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to share this one with you. This is This is insane. What's going on? Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this one here, is that a Mark 1?
That's a Mark 1. Yeah.
People
Those
are
look, well, I'm not a pro here, but it looks to me like the 1990s edition of Way Huge before they closed down.
okay. I mean, if I look at the one on this, like the first thing that I see here, because I've sorted this by price high to low. So if I look at this, I'm like, okay, you essentially get like 3 pedals, maybe from that era, or like, no, it's 92, for like 2,600. I find this to be, it's still very expensive, but I mean, at least you get 3 pedals from that era. And if you like, if you're a collector, or if you're like an absolute fanboy of Way Huge, then yeah, okay, fine. But I look at this and I'm like, is anyone ever going to pay? Oh, and it's already reduced by 10%. Is anyone ever going to pay 2,600? Okay, this is in euros actually. 2,600 euros for a pedal. Are you? It's not like it's
if you have a lot of disposable income, maybe.
That's the question. And then the fun part is then we go to the next one, and the whole thing immediately drops to a 10th of the value because it's the 25th anniversary edition, which actually has a high cut. That's interesting. This one has a high cut, not like the other ones. Okay. So
it's that one's a limited edition. They didn't make a whole lot of them, and from what I heard, it's not exactly behaving like the other Red Llama. I don't know if the pot they put in there is adding extra gain or whatever, but some people love that. Other people prefer the original version. So it's really a matter of preference. But you know,
okay.
I wouldn't pay 2,589 for a Red Llama. There's no way I would put that much money on a pedal.
Unbelievable. So, but just to draw a little comparison, I'm going to filter this by new, just so that we see what. So, if you wanted to buy a Red Llama new, as of now, that's the MK3 version, right? You would have to pay at least, what is this? This is from Malta, 195 euros plus shipping, obviously. Okay, this is Canada. Yeah, then I'm going to have taxes.
195, we're talking about the small version.
Yes.
And from what I understand, there's some components in there that are not the same as the Mark II and the Mark I.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
I did my research on that just to find out if it was like the same, and it looks like some of the components they were using for the original Red Llama are no longer made, so that's why they made the choice to change. But it's supposed to sound the same. I haven't gotten to compare it, but yeah, some of the components are different.
Okay. So, but just to draw the comparison, so you're going to have to pay something around 200 for a Red Llama for one that comes with the standard features. The Ark of Tone for like 235 euros, which is around that. You'll get 2 Red Llamas and you'll get additional features. Just saying.
Yep. And the thing that's really important to say is that with the Red Llama, like I have the Red Llamas, I stacked them together, and I even sent it to you.
Yeah,
so you could compare and see, like, if we were in the vicinity. And I think I sent the hot tubes as well, right?
You sent the hot tubes.
So you had the
which I found in comparison, I found to be almost hideous. I found.
They're both supposed to be based on the same circuit, so. I did a shootout video with the Red Llama and the hot tubes, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, I prefer the hot tubes," and I'm like, "Yeah, maybe in the audio comparison, but if you tried them, and you like were interacting with your typical pedal board, might not like the hot tube so much because it doesn't take pedals really well, in my opinion.
Okay.
And it's a bit constricting. Like, it's super woofy. So yeah, it can make single coils sound great, but its interaction with other pedals, not so much. But for anyone that's like, how close is the Red Llama, or not the Red Llama, but the Ark of Tone to the Red Llama? If you don't use any of the filtering or voltage, it's the same pedal.
Yeah, exactly.
But just with way more output volume, and you can achieve way more gain out of it. But if you like go by ear and play them, I A-B'd them and I couldn't tell the difference. That's how great it is.
Yeah.